Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we are going to make a comparison between how was management, how it was originated, and we are going to present a brief description to the theories which initiated the emergence of management as a science. And then we are going to move on and present some of the new concepts in management. And as we said before, management now is a bit different, actually drastically different than how it was in the past. And management has always been there for thousands and thousands of years. Just remember how Egyptian pyramids were built. They were like projects. All of them, the three of them, and the subsequent pyramids which were built, they had tremendous scope and magnitude and required good management. So regardless of the titles given to managers throughout history, someone has always had to plan what needs to be accomplished, organize people and material, lead and direct workers, and impose controls to ensure that goals were attained. So it was around the turn of the 19th century when management early management theories laid down the grounds for what later on became the science of management, the management as we know today. And we're going to see how the developments went through and how it became today. Two historical events signified the systematic study, the formal study of management. These two historical events were the work of Adam Smith in his book The Wealth of Nations, in which he argued for the economic advantages of the division of labor. And later on, we started to elaborate on the concept and we started to study jobs through breaking down them into narrow, repetitive tasks. The second was the Industrial Revolution, which introduced the power of the machine combined with the division of labor and made large, efficient factories possible. Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling became necessary activities. And there are 6 major approaches to management, and they are explained as follows: the scientific management, the general administrative theories, the quantitative approach to management, organizational behavior, the systems approach, and the contingency approach. And we are going to tackle each of them briefly to grasp the meaning, and later on we're going to see how management became as we know it now. The first of the 6 approaches is the scientific management. Scientific management is defined as the use of scientific method to determine the one best way for a job to be done. The most important contributor in this field was Frederick Taylor, who is known as the father of scientific management. And using his principles of scientific management, Taylor was able to define the one best way for doing each job. After Taylor came Frank and Lillian Gilbert, who inspired and was inspired by Taylor's work and proceeded to study and develop their own methods of scientific management. They devised a classification scheme to label 17 basic hand motions called verblades in order to eliminate wasteful motions. And their studies became known as the time and motion studies, where the unneeded verblades were eliminated in order to have work done more efficiently. Guidelines devised by Taylor and others to improve production efficiency were used and are still used in today's organizations. However, current management practice is not restricted to scientific management practices alone. However, elements of scientific management which are still used until today include the use of time and motion studies in order to have work designed efficiently, and second, hiring the best qualified workers based on the nature of work and work qualifications. Work requires job incumbents to have. And the third is designing incentive systems based on outputs required. The second approach is that of the general administrative theorists. And this group of writers who focused on the entire organization. See, the Scientific School of Management focused on how to design jobs. However, the general administrative theorists, their focus was on the whole organization. So those writers developed more general theories of what managers do and what constitutes good management practices. Among them, Henry Fayol and Max Weber. These two are the most prominent proponents of the general administrative approach. Fayol focused on activities common to all managers. He described the practice of management as distinct from other typical business functions. Henry Fayol stated 14 principles of management, and among them the division of work, the authority, which we now know it as the lines of authority. Third, discipline, and the unity of command, which states that each worker, each employee should get orders from only one boss, and the unity of direction, and the subordination of individual interest to group interest, and the remuneration, the centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability, initiative, and the spirit corps. However, Max Weber, who was a German sociologist, he developed a theory of authority structures and described organizational activity based on authority relationships. He described the ideal form of organization as a bureaucracy. So now, when we design large organizations, we, to a great extent, follow his principles. His work is marked by division of labor, a clearly defined hierarchy, detailed rules and regulations, and impersonal relationships. And if you notice, some current management concepts and theories can be traced back to the work of the general administrative theorists in general. The functional view of a manager's job relates to Henry Fayol's concept of management, while Weber's bureaucratic characteristics are evident in many of today's large organizations. Even in highly flexible organizations that employ talented professionals, some bureaucratic mechanisms are necessary also in highly innovative organizations to ensure that resources are used efficiently and effectively. Sorry. The third approach is the quantitative approach to management. And the quantitative approach to management, sometimes known as operations research or management science, it uses quantitative techniques to improve decision making. See, managers, when they are flooded with a lot of data and information, sometimes it's a mess to deal with the large amounts of information they have to base their decisions and planning on. So they need techniques which facilitate the usage of these large amounts of information to make associations between them, to summarize them, to develop relationships between them, and the quantitative methods help them to just do that. So this approach includes applications of statistics, optimization models, information models, and computer simulations. The quantitative approach, actually, originally it was developed during World War II as mathematical and statistical solutions to military problems. And it was developed for wartime use. However, the relevance of quantitative approach today is that it has contributed most directly to managerial decision making, particularly in planning and controlling. The availability of sophisticated software programs has made the use of quantitative techniques more feasible for managers. Managers rely a lot on statistical packages in order to analyze and find associations between the mess of the important factors in the great amounts of information they have to deal with them and summarize and make them ready to base their decisions on. The fourth approach is that of the organizational behavior. Organizational behavior, as you know, is a field of study concerned with the actions of people at work, the behavior of people at work. Organizational behavior research has contributed a lot, and much of what we know about human resources management and contemporary views of motivation, leadership, trust, teamwork, and conflict management. The early advocates of organizational behavior approach were Robert Allen, Hugo Monsterberg, Mary Parker Foley, and Chester Bernard. Their ideas served as the foundation for employee selection procedures, motivation programs, work teams, and organization environment management techniques. The Hawthorne studies, if you remember them, were the most important contribution to the development of organizational behavior. And this series of experiments conducted from around 1924 to the early 1930s at the Western Electric Company's Hawthorne Works in Cicero, Illinois. They were initially devised as a scientific management experiment to assess the impact of changes in various physical environment variables on employee productivity. After Harvard professor Elton Mayo and his associates joined the study as consultants, other experiments were included to look at redesigning jobs, make changes in workday and work week length, introduce rest periods, and introduce individual versus group wage plans. The researchers concluded that social norms or group standards were key determinants of individual work behavior, although not without criticism concerning procedures, analysis of findings, and the conclusions. The Hawthorne studies stimulated interest in human behavior in organizational settings. In the present day context, behavioral approach assists managers in designing jobs that motivate workers, in working with employee teams, and in facilitating the flow of communication within organizations. The behavioral approach provides the foundation for current theories of motivation, leadership, and group behavior and development. The fifth approach is the systems approach. And during the 1960s, researchers began to analyze organizations from a systems perspective based on the physical sciences. And they viewed organization as a system, and a system is a set of interrelated and interdependent parts arranged in a manner that produces a unified whole, which we call organization. The two basic types of systems are open and closed. A closed system is not influenced by and does not interact with its environment at all. It's closed, it's like a self-contained unit. However, an open system interacts with the environment, is open to all changes, all influences that comes from the external environment. However, using the systems approach, managers envision an organization as a body with many interdependent parts, each of which is important to the well-being of the organization as a whole. Managers coordinate the work activities of the various parts of the organization, realizing that decisions and actions taken in one organization area will affect other areas. The systems approach recognizes that organizations are not self-contained. They rely on and are affected by factors in the external environment. The contingency approach, which is the sixth approach, the contingency approach recognizes that different organizations require different ways of managing. The contingency approach to management is a view that the organization recognizes and responds to situational variables as they arise. And we said before that the situational variables, they are five, if you guys remember: the goals and strategy, the external environment, the technology used inside the organization, the size of the organization, and the dominant culture inside the organization. These five factors, situation factors, each of them impact the organization in a way, and the organization must respond to influences from the whole five situational factors. We now start to tackle on some of the new concepts, relatively new concepts to management today. So the current trends and issues in management, which are changing how managers manage today. The first of them, of course, is globalization. You guys all hear about it, and you know that globalization means that organizational operations, practices are no longer limited by or confined by national borders, and managers throughout the world must deal with new opportunities and challenges inherent in the globalization of business. The second is the ethics, and ethics became so very important in today's organizations. Cases of corporate lying, misrepresentation, and financial manipulations have been widespread in recent years. Managers of firms such as the Enron company, the Global Crossing, and many others have placed their own self-interest ahead of other stakeholders' welfare. And you know that the main aim for managers is to satisfy their stakeholders, because without them, no company can exist. So meeting the needs of stakeholders is of the utmost importance for managers. So representation, falsifying financial reports, and all that stuff to satisfy their own self-interest as managers, as individuals, and put their self-interest ahead of that of stakeholders, actually reflect very negatively on the organization. So ethics became so very important. And while most managers continue to behave in a highly ethical manner, abuses suggest a need to upgrade ethical standards. Ethics education is increasingly emphasized in college curricula today, and we're going to have a whole lecture about ethics, about social responsibility in a couple of weeks. Organizations are taking a more active role in creating and using codes of ethics, ethics training programs, and ethical hiring procedures. Most of them, they have transparency when it comes to hiring decisions. The third concept is resulting uh, as a consequence for having many people from so many diverse backgrounds joining organizations now. And that's what make us classify and describe workforce in organizations now as a diverse workforce. So workforce diversity refers to a workforce that is heterogeneous in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, age, and other characteristics that reflect differences between people. Accommodating diverse groups of people by addressing different lifestyles, family needs, and work styles is a major challenge for today's managers. Organizations now are described more like cosmopolitan organizations. Cosmopolitan organizations because they are composed of a diverse workforce who have so many different. I'm sorry guys, but the PowerPoint presentation, the audio came to an end all of a sudden without prior notice. So sorry for that. We're gonna start from where it made a trap for us from where it stopped. We're saying that the workforce diversity resulted in organizations now described as cosmopolitan organizations because they are composed of very heterogeneous people are coming from different backgrounds. So now there is like a great pressure on organizations to develop their culture and to accommodate the differences between different groups of people. So that became like a reality of the workplace now, no matter where the organization is. And the issue after the issue of the workforce diversity is the entrepreneurship. And it is like a process whereby an individual or group of individuals use organized efforts to pursue opportunities to create value and grow by fulfilling needs and wants of customers through innovation and uniqueness, no matter what resources the entrepreneur currently has. Entrepreneurs, as we said last semester, they very strong believers in their ideas, and they are so sure that the ideas are of great value for people, and they work hard to turn their ideas into real products, goods or services. And no matter what effort, no matter what time, no matter what money, they are so very resilient. They insist to succeed, and they do succeed. And entrepreneurs are responsible about so many new products which we enjoy. And organizations see the issue of entrepreneurship becomes so very important to the extent that many organizations now are developed and designed with a core value of having entrepreneurship. That's when the organization itself encourages entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship, and that's how the organization is designed, and have entrepreneurship as a core value, help nurture managers and employees who are described